What's up, guys? My name is Juan.
And I'm Victor.
Welcome to our weekly discussion videos.
And in these videos, we'll be breaking down every film into 7 different categories: director, story, performances, cinematography, score, memorable moments, and Easter eggs.
And in this week, we are breaking down Matt Reeves The Batman 2022. Alright, for our first topic, we are talking about Matt Reeves, the director.
Now, this director's work has gone back quite a bit, actually. What films are you familiar with about his?
I remember watching Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, the most recent one. That's definitely, I think, one of my favorites because, like we were talking about earlier, it does focus more on character development, and I like the action sequences too. Like throughout the whole trilogy, like the sequences are really, really good, well thought out. The shots are fantastic, and just everything about, like, everything's meticulous and everything has its place. It doesn't feel out of place, basically. So yeah, Matt Reeves has some rapport with me personally.
And to be honest, I have seen quite a few of his films, not his entire filmography, but he is very consistent in all of those different topics that you just hit. Like he always finds different ways to keep things engaging on both a character level and an action kind of blockbuster level as well.
Yeah.
Now his career did start in the 90s with a few films, but they didn't seem to really hit the mark, and he mostly focused on television for quite a few years until he finally hit with Cloverfield in 2009.
Yeah, Cloverfield's such a good movie. Like I think it was more of the point of view shots and all of that, and like shaky cam. I think that's where it worked a lot more, because you do have for one of the perfect examples I have is Paranormal Activity. Like the trilogy. I love the trilogy because, one, it brought that scare factor, but two, it also brought that a little more realness with the shaky cam and a documentary style. So when Cloverfield came out and you watch that, it really did bring a different perspective to that type of genre where I really enjoyed it. Story was actually written really well, because it's very difficult to kind of get like movies like that's alien and sci-fi and all of this, to get it written well, because obviously you're gonna have cheesy lines, some of the plot points get lost, and you have your plot holes and everything like this. So it's written really well, everything's shot really well, and especially for that type of genre. Cloverfield and I haven't seen 10 Cloverfield Lane just yet, but Cloverfield by itself is really good. I enjoyed it.
10 Cloverfield Lane was produced by him, but he was not the director.
Okay.
Now, one thing I did really enjoy about Cloverfield as well, and it's like you said, sometimes something like that could easily falter when it comes to writing or the choice in camera work and whatnot, especially for found footage. But it's even crazier to think how well the film came out when you think J.J. Abrams, who was the producer of that film, came up with just wanting to make a monster movie for America to rival Japan with all of their different kaiju films.
Yeah.
It just came, that was it. He wanted a kaiju American film.
Okay.
And the only one he was like, what do we have?
Yeah.
King Kong?
Yeah. I think that's the only one that is more recognizable.
Yeah, I think everything else literally came from Japan, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So, he wanted to create that, and Matt Reeves was able to actually create something tangible and well executed in the process of just trying to create something that J.J. Abrams wanted.
What would you consider Cthulhu American or Japan?
Technically, yes, he is American because H.P. Lovecraft did create him, but he hasn't
made a movie specifically for...
He has been in films, but none of them have really been like theatrical films besides Underwater back in 2019, I believe. No, 2020.
I haven't seen that.
Not bad of a film, honestly. Some people kind of pandered it as being an Alien ripoff, which it takes a lot of inspiration from Alien, but not the bad kind of inspiration. I thought it was well executed, and there's a giant creature which some people say looks like Cthulhu. You guys can discover that on your own. It's not bad. It's got Kristen Stewart. I always want to say Kirsten because of Kirsten Dunst.
Yeah, of course.
But Kristen Stewart is in it, and she's phenomenal. She's a great leading lady in that. Let's go back to Matt Reeves.
Yeah.
Besides Cloverfield, he did create one remake, which a lot of people argue is one of the few remakes of a foreign film that actually works in its own right.
Yeah.
And that's Let Me In with 2010. And if you've never seen the original, which I believe came out literally about a year and a half, almost 2 years prior to it, Let the Right One In, it's fucking beautiful. It's phenomenal. And Let Me In somehow carries over all of that atmosphere and all of that like chemistry between the two leading characters. But Matt Reeves adds his own few twists in there that, you know, makes it his version of the story.
Like, would you say like the cinematography and the story itself would add to that?
Speaking of cinematography,
Yes.
I know that's not next on our list, but just so that you guys are aware, it's actually the same cinematographer as The Batman.
Oh, yeah. We did talk about that. Yeah, Greg Fraser.
Yeah.
Yes.
Greg Fraser. And it was phenomenal as well.
Okay.
He's been working with him. I think that was actually his first film working with Matt Reeves. And they've worked in quite a few films since then.
Okay.
He actually worked on the Apes duology that he finished off the trilogy with, which are Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, which you watched, and War of the Planet of the Apes, which you haven't watched yet.
Not yet.
But I strongly suggest. A lot of people found it a little slower than the rest, which it is, granted, but it focused even more on their character development since it's the end of the trilogy.
Okay.
And I thought it was beautiful, honestly.
Okay. Well, yeah. Well, definitely, because I do want to finish off the trilogy for the Planet of the Apes, because I remember seeing the original, and I really enjoyed that. It's been years since I've seen it, but other than that, I've seen it, and I really enjoyed it. The first two, remakes were really good too, so I definitely got to finish that. Jumping on to the next topic that we do have story and what we thought about the Batman story, the plot lines, everything. So I want you to go first, and then I'll jump into there whenever, and then I'll give my take. But what do you think about the story for the Batman? Like, was it well written? Like, what do you think?
Not only did I think it was well written, it was just brilliantly executed. And it had plenty of twists and turns, which, granted, some of them may not have been the most original. There are definitely a few there that were very obviously references to other films who had done something similar to that.
Yeah.
But again, what Matt Reeves does is he finds a way to add his own twist to that.
Yeah.
And this whole film was not only his twist on Batman, but a beautiful homage to so many different genres and so many different styles of filmmaking.
Yeah.
It was incredible, honestly.
Yeah, definitely. I personally, I really enjoyed the story, and going based off of what you said of like it's pulling from different references from different movies. So 2008, The Batman,
Dark Knight.
Sorry, I drew a blank. But The Dark Knight. You know how Joker, Heath Ledger's Joker, focused on the corruption in the system, like the justice system throughout the whole movie. Obviously, and just spoiler, I feel like the Riddler focused the same thing, but honestly, it's more focused on not just how Batman could have been the solution, but how he was kind of enabling everything by not doing anything. And I personally, like, I see the connection there because Christopher Nolan, how he wrote his trilogy, kind of all blended together, and how Batman has the resources, has everything to do to be able to stop the corruption, but he doesn't do it because if you really think about it, Batman wants there to be crime because he kind of feeds off of it. And that's how I see it. Because there are people who's like, no, he's stopping it. But is he truly stopping it if he's continuing to fight every night and fight all these? And I'm not saying Batman is the only solution, because you have to actually put in the effort to stop the crime. But if you really think about the psychological aspect of Batman, he lost his parents to crime. Someone killed his parents. So he has that need for quote unquote vengeance. He has that need for justice. But if he completely like gets rid of crime, what's his purpose now? Like what's he gonna do other than just stand around, do nothing?
And I think that perfectly fits into what the theme of the story itself is,
Yeah.
which is basically the sins of the father in a sense,
So good.
which is fantastic.
Yes.
But it delves more into as well, like what you said. Is he really fighting crime to fight crime, or is he just filling a void within himself?
Oh, I think he is, since hit the void that was left when his parents died. Yeah, like who isn't gonna try to find something to fill that void? Because you lose your parents at a young age, you're messed up for the rest of your life.
You lose
Especially
anyone close out of the
well, yeah, and especially if you see it firsthand and they're gone, dude. If someone hurt my mom right now or when I was younger, I don't know how I would be mentally, like sincerely, because as a kid, you're still malleable. You're still open to different things that can change who you are psychologically, physically, everything. So for him to see his parents die in front of him, and then the killer not be caught, it's like, what the hell? Like, what am I gonna do? Like, I need to do something for this. But since he doesn't have his parents there, he will always have that hole in his heart and his soul, and he has to find a way to fill that. So that's him fighting crime. That's him isolating himself. Because if you really think about it, as an introverted extrovert myself, there are days where I don't want to talk to anybody, and it fills me with happiness because I don't want to talk to anybody. The same way you can kind of put Bruce Wayne, Batman, well, mostly Bruce Wayne, in that same aspect of like he doesn't want to talk to anybody, he doesn't want to interact with anybody because he's already used to it. He's familiar with it. He actually likes it, but also he's kind of lonely. He doesn't have anybody else. So when he finds isolation, he feels comfort because that's what he's had his whole life. And I'm not excluding Alfred, because Alfred's a major part in who he is as a person, as Bruce Wayne, but also as Batman. Just that if you really think about it, Alfred is his surrogate father, but not truly his father, So I personally think that he needs crime to fill that void because he doesn't have anything else for him. That makes sense. So this whole story, how it was written by Matt Reeves and Peter Craig, I really enjoyed it. I think it was thorough. I think everything that they did, every detail was fantastic. I think the story, out of 10, what would you give the story?
Oh, we're rating already?
I mean, if you want, we can. Or do you want to save that for the end?
Well, I mean, if we're going to go ahead and rate, we should go ahead and give the director a rating as well. How well do you think he did with his direction, Matt Reeves?
Out of 10, I would give him a 9.
A 9 out of 10?
Yeah, I would give him a 9 because you can see his vision and it's clear. Because there are certain directors you think that they're able to see their own vision, but sometimes they're not, and it gets kind of clouded, and then they get confused, and then everybody else gets confused. With the Batman, with Matt Reeves, you understand where he's going, and he's taking you on a journey clearly. It's clear as day that, like, okay, this is what we're doing, this is where we're going, and this is where we're gonna end up. And that's what Matt Reeves does with the Batman. I think it's great, and I give him a 9 out of 10. What about you?
I would honestly agree. Like, his direction is practically flawless. The way he weaves the camera in and out of the fight sequences, which are so brilliantly choreographed.
Oh my gosh, yes.
It's just very immersive. It's never static. It's constantly moving, but it's never trying to be overly dynamic beyond what it's trying to actually depict.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think he does that in a brilliant way in both the fast sequences and the slower sequences as well.
Yeah.
When he decides to take his time and focus on specific shots. Like for instance, there's a specific scene. Like I said, this film has all sorts of references, not just to comics and the Batman stories, but also to films throughout history. And one of the sequences I really enjoyed was the voyeuristic sequence of him watching Celine Cayo as she entered her home.
Yes, yeah.
And it gives me such Rear Window vibes, especially the way it focuses on him with with the binoculars. I thought that was so brilliant.
Yeah.
But it didn't actually copy any specific shots from the film because he did his own thing.
Yeah.
He gave it that same sense.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I found brilliant about him,
Going-
which is why I would give him a 9 out of 10 as well.
Going based off of that shot that you just mentioned, it felt more intimate. Like it felt him actually opening up a little bit, but yet being secluded. Like literally being secluded away from Selena Kyle, who's Catwoman. The way you see, like you see him be up so close, like that's an extreme close-up shot, and for him to, you're able to see what he's seeing, but also kind of read his eyes of like what he's feeling.
Yeah, that
like
close-up shot of him looking into the lens.
Yeah.
But you could see his eye in a
Yeah.
specific way. The first time I did that shot, actually, specifically,
yeah,
I couldn't tell if it was doing the shot from the side or from the front.
it's
It
insane.
was like kind of did that weird mirror effect where you can't tell if
Yeah.
Robert Pattinson's looking at the camera and you're only seeing half his face, or if you're seeing half his face from the side and he's
Man.
looking away. It's such a good shot. Like I was like, wow. But I agree with you.
Yeah.
It was intimate, and it was a way for him opening up, even though he wasn't directly opening up with somebody, because he actually saw Selena Kyle's duology in her life as well. And I believe at that moment is where he finally made a connection with her, where he wanted to have a connection with her at least.
Yeah, and that's very rare because sometimes everybody knows the psychological history of the Batman. Like he does not want anybody in his life that he's gonna care about because obviously the enemies are gonna try to come after him. And so whenever he does make a connection, he's still so stern. He's still so like secluded because he doesn't want to get so close to where he gets so emotionally attached. But and if they get hurt, he's hurt too. So when that shot came up, like you can feel, personally I felt like every breath he took was like, okay, this is me. I'm watching her, but I'm understanding her position, and this is where I feel calm now. Like this is where I am. Like you can tell like he was observing her, but he was also putting himself in her shoes.
Yeah.
And it was such a good shot. I really enjoyed that specifically because like I said, it's very intimate. All those shots, the story itself, just fantastic. Did you give the rating for the story yet?
No. So
Okay.
story, with the way it delves into the characters that it's building in with,
Yeah.
and the way, like I said, the way it makes references to stories from the past that have influenced the way it tells the story. I would give it also honestly a 9 out of 10 as well. I thought it was phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree. It sounds like we're repeating the same thing with each other, but it's just that good.